You're listening to the Poptart podcast. Girls down. You already know.
I knew a lot of straight women who were like, I'm straight except for JD from Latigra.
I existed on a stage for queers and gender nonconforming people at a time when we really needed that. I was so grateful to have Johanna and Kathleen and like the rest of our crew and stuff to just like humble me.
Thinking about lesbian albatross couplings could be the secret to getting through this pandemic. Hello!
Hello!
And welcome to Poptarts. I'm Emily Rems.
I'm Callie Watts.
We're both editors of Bust magazine in New York City. We love talking to each other about pop culture. We love talking to you about pop culture. And today we have the most special of guests. Feminist electropunk artist J.D. Samson has been a favorite of ours here at Bust since she first appeared on our cover with her band Latigra in 2002, back when I was still a fresh-faced intern. Since then, she has traveled the world both with that band and with her other band, Men, creating socially conscious anthems we can all dance to and proving to fans and skeptics alike that feminism can actually be fun. Her new band, Crickets, which she formed with her pals Michael O'Neill from Men and Princess and Roddy Bottom from Faith No More, Imperial Teen, and the Nasty Band, has released a series of singles and a multimedia collaborative art project leading up to the release of their self-titled full-length, which came out July 17th on Mudguts Records. It is weird and stripped down and moody and bouncy, and I love it so much I cannot stop listening to it. I can't wait to talk about it. Welcome, JD. Yay!
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here.
Yay. All right, let's start from the beginning if we can. I know that you grew up in Ohio and you came to New York to study film at Sarah Lawrence, and then you graduated in 2000, and that same year you joined Kathleen Hanna's post-Bikini Kill feminist group Latigra, and you became a huge feminist rock star. How did you make the leap to music and then stay in the industry for the next 20 years? How did it all come about?
I have no idea. I think luck played a big role in that, but also just the support of my community for sure. And I don't know, it was an interesting transition for me. I went to school for experimental film, but ended up kind of questioning the exclusivity of the projector, and started thinking about how that medium could, basically thinking conceptually about the medium and about what I could do with it. And at the same time, Latigra was looking for a projectionist. So it made sense for me to work with them on this project at the time. And then after about their first short 2-week tour, Kathleen kind of ended the tour by telling me I was in the band now. So.
Amazing. Did you freak out?
I didn't freak out. I was very matter of fact about it all. I felt like, it was like I was living each day the best I could and trying to soak up as much joy and knowledge that they passed off to me. It was just a really incredible time for me. And I don't know. I was humbled by all of it. I think, honestly, at the time, I was so grateful.
It was such a great time, like, just to be alive and be a feminist, too. You guys brought so much joy to so many people. I would love to talk about your new band, Crickets. Can you tell me how you teamed up with Michael and Roddy and how you would describe the concept behind this new band?
Sure. So it all started with an Instagram post, which I think is actually interesting. It's an interesting start because the band relied so little on computers and technology. So it's interesting that that's where we started. But I was looking for a project that didn't start on the computer. All of my projects were made on a computer or on a sampler, drum machine, 4-track, and then we covered them for the live performance. So I was interested in playing music in a room with a bunch of people and just jamming and coming up with music that way and allowing like our personalities to mix together, and that the writership was then focused on us as a team. Just because I was missing my community, I think, in a lot of ways. So I received about 5 messages from people that were like, yeah, let's join a band. I'll be in your band. And we just rented a rehearsal space, and people started coming by, and Michael and Roddy and I were the people that ended up sticking it out.
Sweet. And
yeah.
can you tell me, you were in this iconic all-woman band and now you're in a band with dudes. Is there a tangible difference being in a band with dudes or with women?
I was thinking about this before we got on the call because I wondered if this would come up, and it's something that I've actually never really talked about. But that I have thought about a lot. I can say that Latigra was such a beautiful project. We were very efficient. We delegated tasks really well. It was very democratic. I loved working with them, and I think our success is owed a lot to our ability to work together as a team, and in a business sense and also a creative sense. So I don't necessarily think that project is inherently different, but I do think that I have been leaning on a certain confidence of a cis male to help me broadcast my ideas, because I've gotten to a place of insecurity, to be honest.
So is it like that prayer, like, God give me the confidence of a mediocre white man?
Kind of. No, but they're not mediocre. They're fucking awesome people.
No, I did not mean
Yeah,
to imply
no.
were.
I know.
I'm so glad that you found people that have your back. That's amazing.
I know, and if anything, if I could really put all of my bandmates into a category of like what I look for in a bandmate, it's like someone that has my back, and so I feel very grateful to have had all of my bandmates.
What has it been like launching a whole new band and debuting an album during COVID? What creative methods are you using to get party music out there when parties are literally illegal? Outside of work, what has your quarantine life been like? Like, what is going on?
Good question. Honestly, we had been holding this record for a while. It was finished last year, and we thought it was going to be a great summer record. So the release was actually the end of May, and we decided to hold it because things felt really wild at that time. And we, pushed it up a few months, and I still think it was an odd time for a release, but everything happens for a reason, and I'm really interested in the idea of making work as an experiment, as a constant experiment, and that the audience that wants to hear it will hear it, and they'll hear it when they need to. And I feel pretty much okay with the fact that it just is what it is right now. I also don't really see it as party music. I think it's thinking music.
Mm-hmm.
We really focused on trying to be as minimal and restrained as possible. I think, in the scope of like feminism, we urged each other to let go of the idea of pushing ourselves to like overdo things for sake of like proving something or proving expertise. So there's like a simplicity to everything that's really intentional, and I think that was a concept that we had introduced early on, and I think it's something that actually might sound like dance, fun, party music, but feels more to us like sitting and thinking.
Maybe that's why it was so good to work to have it on. It was making me squeeze my mind grapes because I listened to it on a continuous loop while I was working, and I was like getting in the zone.
Yeah, I think it's really meditative. I mean, there's like, it's very chant-like and almost like monotonous in a way that feels like crazy making, and that was kind of the point.
Yeah, there's some very delicious repetition in there that just like makes you want to chant along and just sort of like jump up and move rhythmically until like you're totally in the zone.
Yeah, get possessed. Yeah.
As I said, I love the album, and there's two songs in particular that are my favorites that I wanted to ask you specifically about the lyrics, if I can. The first one is called Elastic, and we're going to listen to a little of it now.
I thought that becoming the toxic masculinity that would give me the power to keep on living, but indeed I was still toxic. Yeah, I was still dangerous. Now the power I have is to heal and change and grow.
So that was Elastic, and the lyrics are, I thought that becoming the toxic masculinity that hurt me would give me the power to keep on living, but instead, I was still toxic. Yeah, I was still dangerous. Now, the power I have is to heal and change and grow. We all have the power to teach the younger ones to be the best that we can be. You just say that over and over again, and I get into it. What personal experiences were you drawing on when you wrote this song? Were you experimenting with toxic masculinity at a certain point?
I think that, I was, my role in Latigra was very specific because I existed on a stage for queers and gender nonconforming people at a time when we really needed that. But I think that my role was also self-sexualized and also sexualized by fans and other peers as well, because there wasn't this androgynous body to look up to. And I think that in some ways, seeing it in the same way that we see rock stars really weighted that identity for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that there was a lot of my life where I considered that the only thing that I could be good at was being sexy or something like that. And I think that much of that identity that I think I would consider to be mask or butch felt like a performance of what I thought of as masculinity and was flawed for sure, and I just think that we're in a moment right now where reconsidering that is really important. And the lyrics to most of this record came from a book that I was writing that I don't even know if I'll ever put out now because I wrote this record from the words. And I think that one day we were just in rehearsal and I was flipping through stuff that I wanted to sing about, and I came to that part and just sang it, and it felt like a really great chant,
Uh-huh. Yeah, I'm thinking about back when you were in Latigra, and it was definitely not an era when gender nonconformity was as commonplace as it is now. You were really sort of an icon of that kind of self-expression in that way. And I remember because you were putting forth, you were in a feminist band, you were putting forth a certain kind of masculinity, a masculine vibe in a feminine body. Because so many straight women are attracted to masculinity, and gay women also, but I knew a lot of straight women who are I'm straight except for JD from the Tigre.
Right.
You were such a sex symbol in that way and in that time, because there were so few options. I'm sure you got a lot of feedback at that time just because people were attracted to gender nonconforming individuals, and there were so few in pop culture to really look to and to be oh, I'm not the only one who wants to date that or who wants to be that. And so I can only imagine the attention that was focused on you during that time.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was so grateful to have Johanna and Kathleen and the rest of our crew and stuff to just humble me consistently and just keep me near them. And I think that I didn't ever feel unsafe or something. It just felt I've said this in interviews before, but there's this weird sense of donating my body to science or something where it's where in this way I felt this is my duty, this is my politics and my activism to be able to put my body on the stage in support of visibility for my people. And I felt really great about it for the most part. But I just think that there was a point where I felt lost within that. And maybe the codependency of that in some ways. Like, but yeah, it's just something to think about. Like, you know, it's interesting, like when you reach like your highest level of fame, like what that persona is and like how you can translate that to like the next 40 years of your life or whatever it is. So,
Right.
yeah.
And that goes perfectly into my other favorite song on the album that I wanted to talk about, which is Stache. We're going to listen to a little of it now.
My stash is my gash. Weighs down my upper lip, confines me from saying hi. The silence is bringing me down.
So this song really surprised me and it caught me totally off guard. The lyrics to this one are, my stash is my gash, weighs down my upper lip, confines me from saying hi. Silence is bringing me down. I'd rather be with monkeys and babies. I'd rather be alone. Like maybe I'm just interpreting this song as someone who, like, I have an unusual body size that has made me the object of, you know, attention, ridicule, like whatever in the past. But it sounds to me like you have a very iconic little stash and it's bumming you out is what it sounds like in here. I feel when I think of you, like you have the most iconic upper lip hair since Frida Kahlo, and it's part of what has
Thank you.
made you this queer sex symbol. I remember back in 2002 when you were on the cover of Bust. I think you know this, but our art director Lori Hensel's daughter Penny was so obsessed with your stash that she started drawing little portraits of you all over the place. Like, what is going on with this song?
This is a really crazy story. This is the first song that I ever wrote in Latigra.
Oh my god!
I wrote this song in 2000, and so it was kind of like before any of this happened. So it's very interesting that you bring up this song, and I don't know. I think it's also interesting that like I put it last on the record, which means like the least amount of people like happen to hear it, and like what is it like? Am I shy about it or something? And the truth is like the song is about how, you know, mainstream culture sees me prior to like fame around my mustache, I guess, and without that notoriety, I'm seen as like a freak. And I think that the reason why I consider silence to be a part of the story is because I had gotten away with passing, complicated word, about as like a young boy, because of my stash. But then whenever I opened my mouth, there was this disjointed relationship, I would say, and many people would think of me as like a lesbian then, and shame me, make fun of me, call me names, whatever. So I think this song is really about the silence that I felt while being proud of my mustache, but also having fear around the way that people experienced it.
That's so amazing that this song that you wrote pre everything is now in this song. Now it's almost like you're reaching out to like your pre-fame self and trying to tell her something. What are you trying to say to her?
Well, it's funny. Like last year, I got a tattoo of a BLT sandwich on my thigh because it stands for before Latigra, and like
Oh.
because it's the same thing. It's just like this question of like, wait, what was I doing? Like before I went down this rabbit hole, you know, just reminding myself like who I am and everything, not forgetting everything that happened. And of course, like I'm so grateful for the experience. Believe me, is so amazing to be a part of. But yeah, just considering your past.
Yeah, and the anonymity of that and being able to move unobserved in the world. I'm sure it's a mixed blessing to have the notoriety that you
Yeah,
come.
I mean, now I'm like old. I'm like no one. I'm old hat. Is that what they say? Like, the kids have new voices, and I'm just like, I'm a has been.
I would hardly say so, but it is actually you're leading me into another area that is interesting to me that I've been looking forward to talking to you about. In 2011, I know this was a while ago, but you wrote an article that was actually really important to me in the Huffington Post called "I Love My Job, but It Made Me Poorer." And it dispelled the notion that many fans have that their rock stars are all rich and pampered. Like, I totally, in a million years, would not guess that you, at that time, I don't know what your situation is now, that you are broke and struggling just like Callie and I are. Like our boss Debbie likes to tell us that feminism is like crime; it doesn't pay. In this article that you wrote, you said, I have several jobs within the music industry as of now: bands, DJing, remixing, and even writing music for other artists. I'm a workaholic and have my hands in a bunch of different places, but all these jobs have unstable incomes. I don't get a salary. I don't know how much money I will make next month, next year, or 5 years from now. I don't have health insurance. And I live with the stress of not knowing, not planning, and not understanding whether or not I will ever be able to reach my goals of having a family and feeling safe financially. When I say safe, I mean safe. I mean basics. I mean health insurance that is good enough for me to take care of myself, not just if I need a $10,000 life threatening procedure. I mean dental care. I mean saving money in a retirement fund so that I can take care of myself when I'm 80 years old. Clearly, there is a difference between survival and luxury. Like I just said, Callie and I are up against the same things. Callie is the main champion of, like, we'll go to, back when there were fancy press parties. We haven't been to one of those in a long time, but back when there were, Callie was the master of having Tupperware in her purse, so she could make that party food last more than just that one night. Like, we go to fancy thing, we're always sort of fame adjacent and wealth adjacent, but
Yeah.
like, we are in the exact same financial boat that you are. um is your life different now than when you wrote that, and what have the reactions been since you wrote it? Because it made me feel so close to you, being like, like, I wasn't glad that you were poor, but it definitely made me feel like I wasn't the only one with a fancy job, like, wondering how I was going to pay the rent.
Yeah, I mean, I have so much to say about that article that I wrote, or piece, I guess. I think that one thing I'll say is I didn't know it was going to go viral, and I feel a little bit concerned slash embarrassed about the way that I didn't really necessarily confront all of the privilege that I have had. And that has come up for me since writing that piece. Just, I do think that I don't have to live in Williamsburg or New York or whatever it may be, but I also know that that article helped a lot of people who work freelance generally, or
Mm-hmm.
who grew up without parents that were going to support them. And I think it was started a really important conversation around money that wasn't really being had in this like adjacent to wealth community, um, especially in New York. But I was on tour when it came out, and many people were stopping me, on the street to tell me about their feelings about the article rather than like the music or the
Huh.
tour. And so I think it was really important, and it struck a lot of nerve. And for that, I feel happy that it came out. But I do feel that, obviously, I mean, what you just read felt fine to me, but I do remember some things I said that I feel kind of like I wasn't being sensitive to.
Well,
Yeah.
you were speaking your truth, and like, you weren't taking into account everybody's experience in the whole world, but you
Yeah.
were being really candid about your experience, and I really appreciated it. And
Yeah.
I'm sure that a lot of other people do too.
Yeah.
Um,
I mean, and I think from that point on, I just really, you asked about the shift in my life.
Yeah.
And I think one notable shift for me was just like starting to teach. And I now teach at NYU. And it just like, I was really blessed with an opportunity to go there and do some guest spots, and which turned into a full-time position. And it has completely changed my life, not financially necessarily, but just in what I think, my path is, and also how important and wonderful it feels to support other artists. So yeah.
And I also, it makes me think a little bit, like, I know that so many conversations around the feminist movement have to do with equal pay, and that a lot of us as women, like, because people don't talk about what they make or what they don't make, we don't ask each other what we make or what we don't make. We make a lot of assumptions about the lives that other people around us are living, and like we feel a lot of secret shame about what we are and aren't making. And so I feel like conversations like the one that you sort of broached by writing that are helping women to ask each other those kinds of questions, and even just say, like, you know what, I'd love to meet you for dinner at that place, but I can't afford it. And like having more genuine relationships with each other instead of trying to like keep up with each other.
For sure. And I think like at the time, there was like the Occupy Wall Street protests were happening. And so it felt like especially important for us to, as like a community, to consider each other's wealth and privilege, and also just to be able to like, start talking about the elephant in the room, which is just that like we're not all the same. And so I do think that was what I was getting at.
Yeah. I know in 2016 you reunited with Latigra briefly to record a song in support of Hillary Clinton called "I'm With Her." I'm wondering if you have any plans to do something creative for this upcoming election, or even if you have feelings about it.
Oh, I've got feelings about it.
I'm ready to hear them.
I think obviously the pandemic has just like put a bunch of like pause on so much of my creative life, and I think that I feel like if we were able to be in one place, maybe we would have done something. But yeah, there's no plan to do anything right now with Latigra. I watched the Republican National Convention last night. Oh, I shouldn't speak.
No, you can. I was just putting my hand over my mouth just
Oh.
at the thought of watching it, because I couldn't. I had to watch like the talking heads talking about it afterwards, but I couldn't actually watch it.
Can you hear me right now?
Yes, Callie, I can hear you.
Oh my God. Okay. I'm going to stay off Zoom, but Don Jr. looking mad coked up.
Oh yeah. I mean, him and his girlfriend must have been.
What a wild ride they must have been on.
Yeah, I think the Apprentice producers like trained everybody or something like that. So it was
They
like,
did. They're the ones who produced the RNC.
yeah,
And we were like, this is what we used to do on backstage at The Apprentice. Did a shitload of lines.
Well, they were doing Adderall on The Apprentice. I don't know if that's what it was.
no way, really?
But who's to say what powder it was, what substance it was?
I mean, no one's eyes look that glossy if they ain't fucked up on something.
Wait, what was that over-the-counter one that was like?
Adderall?
No, the one that you could. It was like no dose.
Yeah,
no dose.
Yeah, no dose. I took that once when I was on a road trip.
I took that before a Latigra show at like Yale or something.
It was a bad.
I took it all my senior year of high school, and it wrecked my stomach forever.
Oh,
Dude,
no.
I was in a porta-john when I had taken too much no-dose, and it was like swaying. Oh, fuck that shit.
No, man.
No dose.
No dose.
So, JD, you were saying that you were watching the convention. You were watching the Republican National Convention.
Yeah, I was going to bring up the apprenticedness of it. They got apprenticed. Yeah, I mean, I spent July in Georgia, in northern Georgia, and I wanted to go somewhere deep in the woods and found this place that was so isolated that I felt like I could finally breathe. But it was the most politically, I don't know, it was a culture shock for sure. And especially coming from New York, from the protests and everything. I saw, I think every lawn had a Trump sign on it where I was. And I have never felt so frightened. You know, I think I said this after the last election, but we live in such bubbles. You know, like go on Twitter or Instagram and search hashtag Trump 2020. And I mean, it's like we forget that we have created this mirror effect where all we're looking at is each other, and we don't even research the fact that, you know, there's a whole lot there's like a whole lot of people that we need to help try to change their minds, you know.
How would you propose? I feel like if anybody could change hearts and minds, it is you, JD Samson. How would you propose that we do it?
You know what? I have to say, in Biden's speech the other day, he was saying he was giving this, like, I mean, you know, I think they really set him up for as like an empathetic, kind person with like a wonderful heart, and I think that's what Obama was trying to put forth, and I think that it's a really good tactic. Like, if anything, you know, it's a little dose of Marianne Williamson. I just think that it's kind of an interesting call, and I think it has potential to kind of focus on that.
Empathy 2020.
Yeah,
for sure.
that it was like very smart that was what they went with.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
and I did think, I thought, okay, well, that if anything, that's me. So
yeah.
Yeah.
After all these years, JD Samson, are you still a feminist?
Yes. How could I be anything else? I mean, I think we used to say in interviews, like, it's an umbrella term, and I think now we get to say that you know, I am proud to be an intersectional feminist.
Me too.
Yeah.
How has your career in music impacted your feminism, or vice versa?
Oh. Well, I started as a musician that was a feminist, and that was so overtly feminist that we were the feminist band. And I also started my career in the music industry with two amazing, awesome, strong feminists. So I think in some ways, like, my entire career was dictated by feminism, and that's the only way that I have ever seen it. And I think that in some ways, the way that my career has been affected is mostly because I just can't deal with the bullshit. So I don't do things that many people might do in order to get a deal or get a song made, or, you know, I'm just not up for it. I don't care enough. I'd rather have my people listening to my music, and that can be like 5 people or like 50,000 people, or like that just is life.
Excellent. I don't think it's 5 people. I think it's more like 50,000 people. You've been at this for a long time, and I know that feminists like me really appreciate having you out there in the world making pop culture that we can enjoy and gives us pleasure.
Thank you so much. I mean, same to you.
Aw, shucks. Jeez Louise. What are your hopes and your dreams and your plans for the rest of this wacky year when none of us know what is happening and what to do with our lives?
Well, I am very excited to start teaching virtually next week.
Whoa. What is the name of your class at NYU?
I have a lot of classes, but I teach at the Clive Davis Institute of Recorded Music, which is at Tisch, and I teach performance and production classes. And I also teach a class called Creativity in Context, where the freshmen all come to a colloquium every week with guest artist lectures from people whose like trajectory in the industry was serpentine. And it's really fun because I get to bring in lots of people, feminists that we know and love, and the students get a lot out of it because many people have dreams of a very direct, line to their dream career. And as we all know, we cobble things together, and that's just what it's like to be.
Who are some of the
feminists.
feminists that you have on deck? Are you allowed to say?
Well, we have this semester Chantel Martin. Do you know her?
Uh-huh.
She's an amazing artist, visual artist. And we have an alum from the program, Vaughn, who makes music with her, the orgasm waves. Yeah, she's great. Who else do we have this semester? Well, we've had the Pelly sisters, and we had Johanna Fateman 1 year.
Amazing.
Yeah, I think. Oh, and this year we have Hank Shockley too. I'm trying to think of who else is there this year. But it's great. It's awesome, and the students really appreciate hearing from people that aren't necessarily, doing the mainstream thing. So it's good
Yeah.
for them. They're like 17, 18.
Aw.
I love
Yeah. Yeah.
What is it like shaping young minds?
it.
Well, I say this, some of my friends say, like, I'm about to start teaching. What do I do? And I'm like, make them trust you, play them cool things, and support them, and like have empathy. It's like really all you have to do. And I just feel grateful to like watch the growth of so many young artists that are really innovating the medium and the industry. I mean, it's mind blowing. And it's really just like a school that teaches the DIY practice, which I feel is really all I could ever teach. Yeah. It's like, okay, here's a class about troubleshooting, Zoom and Zencaster.
Right. Pretty much.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is my last question. It is a question that I ask all of our guests, and that question is, "Whatcha Watchin?" And it is a
Ooh.
broad question. We're talking about movies, television, books, music videos, podcasts, anything that you are consuming pop culturally. We want to know about it because we know that it is cool if you like it. JD Samson, what you watching?
Love this question. Okay, here's the deal. I don't really like scripted anything. I watch documentary series and documentary movies, and that's pretty much it. I don't know why. It's just a thing. And I just watched a documentary called Man Made about a trans bodybuilding competition that my friend made. And it's very good. It's on Amazon. But I will say that when I get in bed at night, I go onto my phone and I open YouTube. And there's some things that I watch there, like popping pimples.
I love Dr. Pimple Popper.
Well, so this is like not, it's like Dr. Pimple Popper, but without the doctor herself.
Do you have like a specific
Yes.
pimple popper that you watch?
Yeah.
Who can you recommend in the pimple popping genre?
If you're into it, if you're not into it, don't look at it or you'll be mad at me.
Very therapeutic to me.
It helps me fall asleep. So it's called Lone Nguyen. So it's LOANNGUYEN acne treatment.
Okay. Wow. And there's like multiple videos. Is this like an esthetician or like a dermatologist or someone?
I think they consider themselves like a spa, and people come to them and they get their whole face done.
Okay.
So I watched that. I also watch SBSK, which is a guy who does interviews with people with different conditions, and most of them are kids, and that's really sweet.
Conditions like neurological conditions?
That's what he says, conditions, so I'm saying conditions, but some of them are neurological and some of them are physical, and
Okay.
yeah, so it's very cool, interesting, and I love kids, so I watch that.
Mhm.
But if you're into pimple popping, sorry that I just like created this pimple popping sandwich with SBSK in the middle, but the other thing that I watch is called Urban Extractions, and it's a woman in St. Louis, I believe, who pulls out ingrown hairs from people's armpits and after waxing. Like she's a waxer,
Oh.
and she talks behind it, and I really like it's calming.
And is it just like you see a hair coming out, or is there like stuff in there?
Sometimes
It's so
Wow.
satisfying getting an ingrown hair out.
You and Callie are of one mind of this. I'm not so sure, but I will say
I know
It is very satisfying.
that our show's producer, Luscious Logan, is really into watching chiropractic adjustments on YouTube, and he loves watching people get their necks and backs cracked,
I don't
like in a
that.
supercut.
It's a lot
I
of
don't think
cracking.
I like that. Yeah. But other than that, I really do like Married at First Sight. I find it to be a real interesting exploration of the human relationship, like what
Mhm.
is going on.
But that's not on YouTube, right? Like that's on.
Oh no, yeah. I was just thinking of other things that I like that aren't on
Yeah,
YouTube.
what channel is that on?
Well, there was just a season on Netflix, so
Have you
Mhm.
And-
TikToked yet?
it takes up too much space on my phone. I have an Android.
I got
Mm.
really sucked in because I saw one video where someone taped a banana peel to her friend's flip flops while she was sleeping, and now I'm stuck. It's so many
I
pranks.
think it's really beautiful how many marginalized voices are like being
From the banana peel community.
no,
Oh
no,
my God.
I just like it's people send me videos of like a young butch who's like 12 wearing a tie and like asking their crush on a date or something, and it's like so sweet. I
That'll make
didn't
me
have
cry.
that.
No.
I
Kids
don't
today.
I don't know if I'm using it right, but I'm just looking for pranks.
Well, that's okay. I if that's what you're into, I would
Oh
just
my
be
God,
looking
there's so many.
for
There's
tiny
one
butches.
there's one prank that I feel like some child is going to get abused in, where
That doesn't sound like a good prank.
no, it's very concerning prank. It's somebody like whichever parent is the more like uptight parent, they get set up so that the kid yells "shut up," and
Okay.
then the parent freaks out. And usually it ends with it's a prank, and somebody jumps up and runs at a child. I'm like, this is not. I want
Ooh.
bananas on shoes. I don't want pranks on children.
Saying "shut up" was the worst thing you could do in my house.
Apparently,
really-
it's the worst thing in a lot of houses.
It's very interesting. That's so weird that you say that because I always wondered like why that was in my case, but I guess it's not just my case.
Oh my God, the
I still
parents
have
will, like,
never said shut up
freeze.
to my mom. I don't want to know what would happen if I did. Never have I ever.
But like,
Oh,
have
I
you ever
definitely
said "fuck
have.
you" or like
No,
something?
not to my mom.
Yeah.
Like I've said like that person can fuck off or whatever, but I would
Yeah.
never say shut up or fuck you directly to either of my
Right.
parents.
Oh,
Yeah, that would be actually.
me and my mom have a wild ride.
Yeah.
So anything else? Are you watching, reading, listening to anything else?
There's a really good podcast by Holly Herndon called Interdependence, which I've been listening to. She's a musician. It's really great. She's so smart. Her and her partner do it. And yeah, I think podcasts have been really good for me during this time. But to be real, I just like don't like TV that much.
That's fine.
Yeah. I just like to watch real things happening.
You said that you like documentaries. Are you
Yeah.
familiar with the documentarian Bettany Hughes?
No.
I just asked because she's going to be on our podcast coming up very soon, and she is like one of my favorite documentarians ever. And so, like, I feel like I sort of want to preach the gospel of Bettany Hughes and let people know that she's going to be on this podcast and it's going to be great.
Wait,
And if
what
you
did
like-
she make? Maybe I just don't
She's
know
a
her name.
historian, and she's a dame. She's an OBE, of Order of the British
Yeah.
Empire, for her contributions to history, and she's made like 50 history documentaries,
I'm
like
gonna
on the
check it out.
BBC and Channel 4 and all that stuff. And she likes to center women and women's experiences and their lives in history, which is so rare in history documentaries.
Yeah.
So
That's so cool. I was working
Yeah.
on this documentary series that was like about queer and trans animals for a while.
Oh, that's
Yeah.
awesome.
It was
How do you know?
How do you know?
Well, there's
If it-
those penguins that just adopted the.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, like there's the gay penguins.
Stories
right.
like that. I mean,
I
it's
love
all
stories like that.
anthropomorphizing is like questionable, you know, like as a feminist practice.
I'll allow it.
Yeah, so- but it is fun to think about lesbian albatross couplings.
I feel like, if anything, thinking about lesbian albatross couplings could be the secret to getting through this pandemic.
Oh,
I might agree with that.
Like less CNN and more meditative lesbian albatross couplings.
You know what's really cool about them too? It's like when you see a picture of them, you're like, oh, it looks like a seagull, but they're like this big.
They're massive.
They're like, they're like the size of a watermelon. No, 4 watermelon, 2 watermelons.
a baby lesbian.
Yeah, they're like the size of a small child.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for being on our show, JD.
Yeah.
You're the best. We
Oh,
appreciate
thanks.
you so much.
I appreciate you
This was
all
awesome.
so much. You straightened my hair on the cover of a magazine.
We straightened your hair. It was like very baby fine and flat, I remember. You guys were all white. You worked it out. It was the best.
Oh, I think you used to play basketball with one of our old interns, by the way.
Yeah?
Anna? Yeah, Anna Holmgren. Swedish
Oh.
Anna.
Yeah,
She's one of my besties.
totally. I didn't know that. That's awesome.
Old school intern.
Yeah.
Now
I thought you
activist
meant now, and I
for
was like,
our
wait,
friend.
what?
No.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, nobody's playing basketball right now.
Thank you again so much.
Thank
You're the
you
greatest.
so much. Have a great day.
Thanks.
Bye.
You too. Now, we're going to take the briefest of breaks, and when I return, I'm going to ask Callie, and Callie's going to ask me,
What you watching?
Hey, podcast fans! Did you know that the best place to listen to your favorite shows ad-free is Stitcher Premium? They've got Conan O'Brien Needs a Friend, My Favorite Murder, Wolverine: The Lost Trail, Bitch Sesh, The Fantasy Footballers, Science Rules with Bill Nye, and more, all without commercial interruptions. And we can hook you up with a sweet deal. To get 1 month free, go to Stitcher.com/premium and use promo code Poptarts. That's Stitcher.com/premium, promo code Poptarts. Before we get back to the show, I want to tell you about our new sponsor, Wolfie Vibes Publicity. If you're working on a new project and find yourself in need of a kick-ass publicist who communicates well and works tirelessly to get you the coverage you're after, consider going to Wolfie Vibes Publicity. Wolfie Vibes Publicity is a female-owned and operated boutique PR firm that will get you where you need to be, and you'll even have fun in the process. Get in touch via wolfievibespublicity.com for details and quotes, and tell them that Poptarts sent you.
Essentially, I started it because every female comedian I know was amazing and hardworking and hilarious, and I knew would make great podcasts. And every male comedian I know already had a podcast and was doing their own thing. Hi, I'm Kate Moldenhauer, the founder of More Banana Podcasts, a comedy podcast network entirely produced, hosted, and led by women. We have shows about politics.
Hey everybody, welcome to Let's Get Civical. When the Supreme Court puts stuff on their calendar, they use the word docket.
So their Google Calendar is a docket.
Is a docket.
So technically I have a docket.
You have a docket. We all have
We all have a
dockets.
docket.
Sex?
Welcome to my vagina. I'm Jessie Karen. This is Rebecca Frank. What were ancient Greek dildos made of, Jessie?
They were made of padded leather and, anointed with olive oil.
Yep.
Scams?
I'm Caitlin
I'm
Bradley.
Sue Smith, and we love scams. She tells them she's a German-Russian heiress, and she seems like she has a lot of money, and people buy it. That's
Yeah.
basically what's happening.
So as soon as she got a loan, she would cash it as much as she could out before anybody caught on. Which
amazing.
was so smart. I mean,
So
that's like,
smart.
I mean, it's terrible, but like to take that money out immediately.
Because women are actually pretty versatile and funny. More Banana is a network of women's voices, unfiltered and uninterrupted. Find us everywhere you get your podcasts and learn about our growing roster of shows at morebanana.com.
And we're back. Now, Callie, this is the point where I ask you, and hopefully you ask me, what you watching?
I watched Lovecraft Country. Did you watch that yet?
I haven't, because HBO Max is not compatible with Roku, so I haven't watched
Rude.
anything in so long. It's so rude.
Rude. Well, it was only the first episode. I don't know much about H.P. Lovecraft. I didn't
I know that he was super racist. As well
I
as being
know
very
he was
sexist.
super racist now. That's what when I Googled it, I was like, oh, this bitch was racist. I mean, I knew he had that one weird monster that he was
He
famous
also
for.
had a cat named N-word Man.
What?
Yeah.
What a bitch.
Yeah. Not an appropriate name for a cat or a person or anything.
Anything. It was really good. I feel like I miss a lot of the context because I'm not familiar with H.P. Lovecraft's work, but I am familiar with racism.
So there you have it.
So there I have it. And, I love a good monster. So I'm in it to win it. I had gone, the first episode came on, and I was like, oh, we're going to have to watch this whole season all tonight. This is great.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to the store and got snacks, and then I realized it was HBO.
Oh.
So that pissed me off.
Now you gotta wait.
Yeah, fuck that shit. I also have been watching Connected on Netflix.
Oh, what's
Have
that?
you seen this yet?
Uh-uh.
It's a dude from Radio Lab, and it's just like
Is it
how
Jad Abumrad?
possibly. I didn't look his name up. And it's like how all these random things are all connected that you wouldn't think about. And there's a poop episode that is so interesting, just about poop, all kinds of poop, how
Right.
poop turns into dust in the Sahara Desert, and then it builds walls of poop dust that stops hurricanes. And apparently all the hurricanes start off of the Sahara Desert. I
What?
didn't know this.
I had no
And
idea.
and then if the poop walls don't stop them, then they end up taking that dust to the Amazon, and the Amazon needs some specific minerals that are in this dust. So it goes from the driest place to the wettest place.
Are the minerals in all poop, or does it have to be like human
No,
poop or
it's
animal
just
poop?
like the Sahara Desert dust specific.
Ah.
So like, actually, I may be combining 2 episodes.
Were you watching this high? You can tell me.
You better believe I was watching this on vacation. I was stoned as fuck. It was during the hurricane.
Oh, okay.
So these were my notes, and my notes may be combining 2 episodes. If somebody wants to write it, let me know.
It sounds like a great show either way.
It is. There's also another episode about, what is that country that's all on the cloud? Everything they do is on the cloud.
I didn't know there was a country all on the cloud.
Yeah, every fucking thing you do is all connected, so you don't have to fill out a million forms. They just know who you are, and they have no, nobody's stealing people's identities there. It's super safe.
I'm gonna say it's New Zealand just because I like that lady who runs New Zealand.
I want to say it sounds like Encino Man. I should have written notes on this. Hold on. Anyway, carrying on. I was stoned when I watched the show.
Okay.
But it is fascinating science documentary. And then I also watched Umbrella Academy season 2.
Yeah, I still haven't watched that show, but you recommended it last season.
It's so good. I mean, I don't really like superhero shit.
Mhm.
And this kid that plays the character number 5, all the kids have number names. Number 5, he's like a young kid whose character is an old man stuck in his childhood body. He got like sent back in time. And this kid plays an old man so fucking good. He just walks old. He has like old mannerisms. This kid is a really fucking good actor.
He's Benjamin Buttoning.
He's Benjamin Buttoning, and he's really good at it.
Nice.
And then I also watched American Pickle. Did you see that?
No, but I should because of my heritage.
Because of your heritage, yes. It's a movie about a man that is stuck in a pickle factory brine, and gets found 100 years later. So it is also like Encino Man. And the guy comes back, and it's Seth Rogen, and then Seth Rogen also plays his great grandson.
Nice.
And it's you know, what do you expect from a guy that comes out of a pickle brine 100 years later and then is learning about racism and cars and what have you? There's a lot of things they talk about like beliefs he has from the past that are so fucked up, but at the time you think it's normal, like shitting on women and stuff like that.
Right.
Not actually shitting on women.
Right.
But it was good. It was funny. It wasn't like groundbreaking. Also, he never tells the old man about the Holocaust. I thought that was bizarre.
Why tell him? If he never knew about it, then just
Yeah,
let
I
him
guess
not
let's
know
skip
about
ahead. Yeah. So that's what I've been watching. And what have you been watching?
Well, thank you so much for asking. I told you in the last episode that I plunked down my dollars for Disney Plus just so I could watch Beyonce's Black is King. But then I figured, while I've got Disney Plus, why not watch Hamilton? So I did. It's Lin-Manuel Miranda's big, giant Broadway blockbuster spectacular about Alexander
Camilla was
Hamilton.
obsessed.
And they sing/rap throughout the whole thing like an opera. Like there's no exposition. It's just all musical numbers, so which I thought was very impressive. There's a lot of energy, and I love how like they cast non-white actors as the founding fathers and other historical figures. I think that it was really groundbreaking and boundary busting in that way that like they really opened up all roles for all people. That you can just get the best person for the role, and you don't have to, like get the old white guy to play George Washington if you don't want to.
But thinking about old white guys, that old white guy in it that's drooling when he sings, he's so good.
Oh, who plays the king?
Yeah, he's like totally salivating
He's not
at the
really
mouth.
old.
Well,
but he
I mean,
plays old
white
well,
guys.
like the king.
Yeah.
But yeah, Lin-Manuel Miranda described it as America then as told by America now. I don't think it's actually told by America now, because I think that if he was writing Hamilton now, then I think it would maybe take a more critical view of the founding fathers than it does.
Oh yeah, I think.
But I still really liked it, and that's saying something because I started out my professional life in the theatre, and I burned out on theater so hard that I barely ever watch theater on purpose. Like I just burned out on it more than any person can burn out on anything ever. And so like I really honestly don't watch much theater, and I'm glad that I was able to watch it on TV so I could take breaks. And
yeah, it's long, dude.
I watched it in 3 parts. I didn't watch it all the way through, but I did actually enjoy it, and it may have possibly renewed my interest in theater just a little bit.
I love that.
Yeah, because I did enjoy it very much. One of our previous guests, Sam J, has such a great comedy special on Netflix. It's called 3 in the Morning, and it made me LOL laugh out
It
loud.
is so good. I meant to talk about that. I forgot I saw that. Also was stoned on vacation.
Oh, it was so funny. Yeah, I sought it out because you told me that you had watched it and loved it. And just telling our listeners that if you also have seen Sam J 3 in the Morning on Netflix and are like, oh, that was so funny, I want to hear more from Sam J, you can hear a whole hour of Sam J talking to us. She was on this podcast, the episode that we released on August 28th, 2018. It's such a great show, and she's great, and I recommend it.
She goes all over the place, man. She just gets real.
I think I'm going to actually watch it again because that's how much I enjoyed it. In our house, what had happened was Luscious Logan got another shoulder surgery. And so he's been propped up on pillows, taking that Percocet for the last week, and to get him through the pain, we've been watching all the Star Wars movies in
Oh my
narrative
gosh.
order on Disney Plus, starting with the Phantom Menace episode 1, then Attack of the Clones. I saw Solo, which I had never seen before, with Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian wearing a variety of capes. I really enjoyed Solo much more than I thought I would. I saw part of Rogue One before I fell asleep, but I want to say that the original first 3, which were bedrock parts of my 80s childhood, they've been remastered, and the remasters look good, but there's like some really dumb CGI additions that they just like put in there to like con people into paying money to see them in the theaters again, and I don't like those changes, and I don't appreciate them. There's this
What are
deleted,
like added?
yeah, like in A New Hope, which is known to oldies like myself as just the original Star Wars. You know the
Same.
famous like cantina scene where they're like do 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 do. Okay,
Yeah.
so after that scene, then they go on to the Millennium Falcon. That's how it's supposed to be. But in the newly released A New Hope, which is all you can get on Disney Plus, there's this scene where Han Solo gets intercepted by Jabba the Hutt outside of the Millennium Falcon, and it sucks. Like in Return of the Jedi, where we're used to encountering Jabba the Hutt for the first time, he's huge, he's slimy, he's an enormous green slug, he has Princess Leia chained up. It's like super gross and scary, and the CGI Jabba the Hutt that they doctored up for this deleted scene in the first movie is terrible. It's not green enough. It is not slimy enough. It is not large enough. It's 100% thumbs down. And they're just like, somebody needs to save George Lucas from himself. Like somebody needs to like put handcuffs on him and stop him from messing with the classics. He's not improving them. He is degrading them, and he needs to stop. So that's what I have to say about that. I am someone who does not enjoy watching television shows on my phone. Like it's just not something that I
No.
do. However, I found this show on Facebook Watch that I am now so obsessed with. I keep watching it on my phone, even though I don't watch shows on my phone. It is called Unfiltered, Paris Jackson and Gabriel Glenn. Have you heard of this show?
No, is this no?
So Paris Jackson, as in Michael Jackson's daughter, she's 21 now. She's pretty cool. And she's in a band called the Soundflowers with her boyfriend Gabriel Glenn, who has a similar aesthetic, personal aesthetic to my heavy metal neighbor, Jason Leckberg, who is also a musician. But anyway, Paris Jackson has this boyfriend, Gabriel Glenn, and they have a reality show on Facebook Watch where they're like touring around as this sort of like folk rock duo. And she plays the guitar and he sings sort of harmony to her. And they have a documentary crew following them around, and people just want to gawk at her because she's Michael Jackson's daughter. And like there was this one show in Rome where she was actually like really legitimately sick and she like couldn't show up, and so her boyfriend showed up to the gig like just to play as one Soundflower instead of both Soundflowers, and there was practically like a Roman riot. They didn't give a shit about him or their music. They just wanted to stare at Paris Jackson, and they were so upset that she wasn't there. But this dude, like he's a nomadic musician guy. He lives in his van. Like she went to one of his gigs in LA at the Rainbow, and they just like sort of magically fell in love, and she got in his van, and that was it. Like they've just been together, living in that van, rolling around. Get in that van. Exactly. So if you want to see Paris Jackson living in a van, hanging out with a long-haired dude, do it. She's very candid. She's super cool. She talks about being pansexual. She talks about suicide attempts. She talks about psych ward. She talks about all that stuff. And you get to see her siblings in the show. It's very interesting. I have not seen Blanket thus far, but I did see Prince. Prince directed the first Soundflowers video, and you get to see that behind the scenes process on the show. And you also get to see her other older brother, who was actually the son of their nanny, who they call their brother because they were all raised together. And I was not aware of this other sort of auxiliary Jackson child. So I was excited to learn about that as well. And the last thing that I've been watching is the majestic Poptarts Patreon page, which is in the world and everyone should know about it. We really need your help to keep Bust alive now more than ever. WAP, wet ass Patreon. Get on it. Hopefully if you check it out, you'll be excited by all the goodies that Callie and I have hooked up for our patrons. It's at patreon.com/Poptarts podcast. And Callie and I have been cooking up all kinds of great benefits for people who want to sponsor us. Like we have show notes that you can only get if you're a patron for every episode that we've ever had, where you can find out what Callie and I and all of our guests have been watching for 3 years. It's all there. Linked, itemized. Just click the link and you'll know how to find it. We've also got totally ad-free episodes. We have exclusive content like our episode with Big Frida that you can only hear if you're a patron, and there's so much more. Check it out at patreon.com/Poptarts podcast to learn more. And finally, thanks to our luscious producer and sound engineer, Logan del Fuego. Muy caliente. And thank you extra to Logan for producing this episode while you're on the mend. We really appreciate it. And of course, thanks to our girl gang at Bust Magazine. You can find me on Twitter at Emily Rems and on Instagram at Rems Emily. But you cannot find Callie, so don't even try. I'm at emilyrems@bust.com. You can learn more about this show at bust.com/Poptarts. Finally, if you could rate and review this podcast on Apple Podcasts, it would be so great. I mentioned at the last episode that we're at 199 ratings. We really want to roll over to 200, but still, we haven't rolled over yet. So if just one of you were to rate and review us on Apple Podcasts, we would have a little celebration. Why not? We super duper appreciate it, and we appreciate you. Until next time, mwah!
Mother darling, I cannot weave. Slender Aphrodite has broken me with lounging. And I was like, fuck yeah. I too have been broken with lounging.